Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about something that's uncomfortable but absolutely necessary. How close explicit content really is to our kids, even when we think we've done everything to keep them safe. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. I'm speaking to you right now as a parent, and also just as someone trying to make sense of how fast things are changing. Check the time and the weather where you are. Where I am, it's just after dinner, and my daughter is upstairs supposedly watching crafting videos. Supposedly. Now let's listen to the compelling story in this video of mine. I still remember the moment I realized something was wrong. My daughter was about 10, and I walked past her room to hear the usual giggles, a faint British accent from one of those kid-friendly YouTubers, and then silence. Not a pause for dramatic effect silence. A shut the laptop, hold your breath silence. Something about the way she froze made me stop. I didn't barge in. I didn't yell. I just knocked gently and asked, "Everything okay?" She nodded, too fast, and said, "Yeah, just watching slime videos." I trusted her. I really did. But I also remembered reading a headline just a few days earlier. Something about Elsagate, where innocent-looking videos on YouTube Kids spiraled into bizarre, inappropriate, and even disturbing content. Kids start off watching Elsa sing Let It Go and end up watching her handcuffed in a bathroom with Spider-Man. It's not even a question of if your child will encounter something explicit online. It's when. And it's probably already happened. We think, my child is different. I've raised them right. They'd come to me if something was wrong. But here's the truth. I thought that too. And I'm in tech. I know how these platforms work. Still, I got blindsided. Because here's what they don't tell you about digital danger. It doesn't always wear a trench coat and knock at your front door. Sometimes it wears bright colors, cheerful music, and titles like Funny Pranks or Life Hacks for Kids. There was one night when I couldn't sleep. I went down to grab a glass of water and saw the faint glow from our living room. It was past midnight. I found my son, older than my daughter, sitting with the iPad on his lap, eyes glazed over, switching rapidly between browser tabs. When he saw me, he jumped like I'd caught him stealing. He didn't want to talk about it. Neither did I. But I knew exactly what was happening. These aren't bad kids. These aren't broken families. These are ordinary children in ordinary homes who are being exposed to very adult things before their brains even know what to do with them. And it doesn't just stop at bad pictures. There's a whole ecosystem out there. Comments, forums, memes, pulling them deeper into things they don't understand. One curious click. That's all it takes. From there, the algorithm kicks in. You like that? Try this, and this, and this. Before they know it, they're in the deep end, and no one's taught them how to swim. I once talked to a friend, another parent, who found out his 8-year-old son had seen hardcore content on a school-issued Chromebook. At school. During class. Through an innocent Google search that spiraled quickly out of control. We think we can outsmart the problem by adding parental controls. Sure, that helps, a little, but they're not foolproof. They miss things, they get outdated, and kids, they learn fast. Faster than you think. I've seen 11-year-olds explain VPNs better than IT professionals. I've heard 9-year-olds use terms they don't even understand because they heard them in an online game or a TikTok comment section. You can't put your head in the sand anymore. You can't say my kid is too young or they don't even have a phone yet. You can't wait until they're teens to start this conversation because explicit content isn't knocking on their door. It's already inside the house. And here's the kicker. Most of the time, it's not because they went looking for it. It found them. It found them on the bus when a classmate handed over a phone. It found them during a sleepover when someone said, "Want to see something crazy?" It found them when YouTube auto-played the next video and that next video wasn't made for children. That's the part that stings the most. As a parent, you think you're protecting your home. You lock the doors. You teach them not to talk to strangers. You vet the games and shows, but the monster doesn't come through the front door anymore. It slips through apps, ads, DMs, and anonymous usernames, and it always pretends to be something harmless. The most haunting thing I ever heard? A mom friend of mine said, "My daughter said she watched a video she couldn't unsee, but she didn't want to tell me because she didn't want me to take her iPad away. That hit me like a truck. Think about it. Fear of losing access is stronger than the fear of emotional damage. That's how deeply rooted this digital world has become. I know this sounds grim, but here's the light in all of it. Awareness is power. The very fact that you're watching this video, that you're listening, means you care. You want to do something. And I'm here to tell you, you can do something. But it has to start with facing this truth. Digital danger isn't down the street. It's not around the corner. It's not some future issue for teenagers. It's already here. And it's just a few clicks away. It always starts so innocently. I remember the first time I caught my daughter typing into the YouTube search bar. She was 7. Her spelling wasn't great yet, so instead of Barbie dolls, she wrote Barbie dolls. YouTube didn't care about her spelling. It filled the screen with flashy thumbnails, and right there, mixed in with real Barbie unboxings, were some very questionable animations. You know the kind. The ones made to look like they're for kids, but with titles and scenes you wouldn't show in a college dorm, let alone a child's playroom. I quickly took the tablet from her, and she looked at me, confused. Did I do something wrong? That broke me. She didn't do anything wrong. She was just being a kid. Curious, playful, exploring a screen the way we explored backyards or treehouses. But what she stumbled into was something her brain wasn't ready for. And in that split second, I realized how fragile the boundary is between innocent curiosity and disturbing content. We always assume that kids who end up watching inappropriate things were looking for it. We're wrong. Sometimes it starts with a cartoon that suddenly includes a suggestive joke. Other times, it's a TikTok challenge that escalates from funny to sexual in 30 seconds. It might be a pop-up ad disguised as a game. Or maybe it's a friend sharing something they found first. These platforms are built on curiosity. That's what keeps you scrolling, clicking, watching. And kids, they are the most curious beings on the planet. Of course they're going to tap. Of course they're going to wonder, what happens if I click this? I once had a conversation with my niece. She's 12 and smart, like top of the class smart. We were having lunch when she casually said, it's not that hard to find naked people online. You just type the word hot and then add any body part. I almost choked. She wasn't being sarcastic. She wasn't trying to be funny. She was stating a fact she'd already tested. When I asked her how she knew that, she shrugged. A boy at school showed me. And that's the point. You can lock the devices, set all the filters, even ban screens altogether. But you can't filter the world outside your home. You can't block a classmate's phone. You can't stop the kid down the street from whispering a search term at recess. Curiosity doesn't mean kids are bad. It just means they're human. But the internet doesn't meet that curiosity with safe answers. It meets it with extremes. Do you remember being a kid and learning about sex for the first time? It was probably from a book, a clumsy health class, or a red-faced parent who finally sat you down. There was a certain awkwardness to it, but it gave you time to process, time to ask questions. Now, a 9-year-old can be exposed to pornography before they even understand what sex is. That's not education, that's trauma. And once they see it, they can't unsee it. You know what I'm talking about. The wide-eyed stare, the sudden silence, the way they close a browser tab just a little too fast. I've seen it. We've all seen it if we're honest. It reminds me of something my son said once. He was 9. He asked, "Why do people kiss naked on the internet?" It wasn't a joke. He was genuinely confused. I asked him where he saw that. He said, "I clicked on something. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a game." There's a kind of innocence in that answer that's painful, because it means he trusted the screen, and the screen betrayed him. And yet when we ask parents if their kids have ever seen anything inappropriate, most say no. But here's the catch. They're only saying that because their kid hasn't told them, not because it hasn't happened. Kids are naturally secretive when they feel ashamed or confused. And unfortunately, they often do feel ashamed, even when it's not their fault, especially when it's not their fault. They don't want to disappoint us. They don't want to lose privileges. They don't want to feel weird. So they stay quiet. And they keep clicking. Not because they want to, but because they're trying to figure it out. And while they do, the internet keeps serving them more. It's a cycle. One click leads to a suggestion. That suggestion leads to autoplay. Then comes a comment section, then a private message. And just like that, they've gone from "what's this" to "why can't I stop watching this?" When I finally sat down and talked to my son about what he'd seen, I kept my voice calm. I didn't punish him. I didn't freak out. I just asked, "Do you feel okay? Are you scared?" He nodded slowly and said, "I just want to forget it." That was the moment I knew we couldn't rely on blocks or bans. We needed conversation. We needed presence. And we needed to stop pretending that curiosity is the enemy. It's not. The lack of guidance is. You see, when your child's curiosity meets silence from you and endless answers from the internet will win. Every time. So the next time your child giggles over a video, don't assume it's harmless. The next time they hesitate to show you a screen, pay attention. The next time they ask a strange question out of nowhere, don't brush it off. Be present. Be open. Be the voice they hear first, before the internet answers for you. Because innocent curiosity deserves a safe space to grow, not a rabbit hole of things they'll carry quietly for years. I used to believe the internet was just a neutral space, a reflection of whatever you searched for. If you looked for math videos, you'd get math videos. If you clicked on cartoons, you'd stay in the safe bubble of cartoons. That's what I thought. Then I learned how algorithms really work, and it changed everything. One evening, I sat next to my son while he used my phone to look up Minecraft videos. Harmless, right? He watched a builder create an underground lava base. Cool stuff. But then the suggested videos started looking off. One thumbnail showed a blocky character kissing another. The next had one holding a sword to someone's throat. The third had a clickbait title like, "They did what in the village?" Same game, same category, entirely different tone. The algorithm wasn't trying to educate him, it was trying to keep him watching. And that's the key. These platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, even search engines, they don't have feelings. They don't know what age your child really is, even if you set an account to under 13. They aren't filtering content based on moral safety. They are engineered to do one thing: maximize engagement. And what gets engagement? Shock, curiosity, conflict, drama, sex. If you think I'm exaggerating, here's a simple test. Create a fresh account, click on a few edgy thumbnails, and just sit back. Don't search. Don't type anything. Just click whatever the algorithm recommends. Within 10 minutes, you'll be knee-deep in content you'd never want your child to see. Because the algorithm is like a mirror that distorts everything. It takes one glance at your behavior and magnifies it, echoes it, repeats it louder. If you pause on something sexual for even 3 seconds, it assumes you want more. And guess what? Kids pause. They stare. They're confused. But the algorithm doesn't know confusion from desire. It only knows, this caught their attention, send more. I saw it happen firsthand. My daughter started watching dance videos on YouTube Shorts. You know the kind. Fun routines, popular music, nothing wrong with that. But the platform quickly fed her more intense clips. The clothes got shorter, the moves got suggestive, the camera angles got disturbing. It wasn't what she wanted. It's just what performed best. The worst part? The comments under those videos. They weren't coming from other kids. They were filled with adult users. Creepy usernames. Emojis. I had to look up because I didn't even understand what they meant. My daughter, bless her heart, didn't even read the comments. She was just following the routine. But I was reading them. And I felt sick. It made me realize that we're not fighting a fair fight. We're raising kids in a system designed to override their self-control. A system where even if your child tries to avoid something inappropriate, it will still find them if it thinks it can make them stay. These algorithms are smarter than we think. And that's what makes them dangerous. Because they're not malicious. They're just indifferent. They don't say, let's harm children. They say, let's keep users engaged. But when your user is 10, 11, 12 years old, that indifference becomes harmful. It becomes addictive. It becomes traumatic. You want to know why your kid suddenly can't sleep? Why they start hiding their screen when you enter the room? Why they stop talking about their day? Sometimes it's puberty, yes, but sometimes it's the algorithm showed them a video they weren't ready for, and then it showed them 20 more. The worst part? These platforms thrive on secrecy. Videos disappear after viewing. Histories can be wiped. Content is tailored individually, so no two users see the exact same feed. That means you can search for your child's favorite app and find nothing alarming. But their feed? A completely different world. It's like they're living in a digital room with the door closed, and you don't have the key. Now, I'm not saying we should throw away every device and go live in a cabin. That's not realistic. Our kids need to be online. It's where school happens. It's where friends are. It's where jobs and futures live. But we can't treat the internet like a babysitter. We need to understand how these platforms function and how our kids fit into that system. I've started asking my children different questions. Not just, what did you watch today? But did anything pop up that confused you? Or did the app recommend something that felt weird? At first, they gave me blank stares. But now, they tell me. Not everything, but enough. Enough for me to step in and explain. We also set a new family rule. If a video makes you feel weird, don't hide it. Tell us. We won't get mad. We just want to help. That simple promise changed everything. Because kids aren't trying to misbehave, they're trying to understand. And the platforms they use aren't helping them understand. They're just showing them more of what grabs their attention. We can't rely on the algorithm to filter morality. That's our job. We can't trust that kid mode means safe. We can't assume recommended for you is a good thing. Our kids need us to be digital parents, not just physical ones. So start asking harder questions. Start watching with them. Start clicking what they click. Learn how their apps behave. Follow the suggestions. Read the comments. See what they're seeing. Because the algorithm isn't evil, but it's not on your side either. And when it comes to our kids' innocence, we can't afford to let a cold line of code decide what they see next. I knew something was off when I walked past the bathroom door and noticed it was locked. It wasn't unusual. My son was 12, and privacy was becoming more important to him. But he had brought the iPad in there, again. "Everything okay?" I asked casually. "Yeah, just watching YouTube." My heart sank. I didn't say anything then. I didn't want to shame him, but I knew. He wasn't watching videos about basketball or Minecraft. Not anymore. That night, after everyone was asleep, I checked the device history. It was blank, cleared, even the YouTube history, gone. And it hit me like a punch in the gut. My kid, my sweet, awkward, curious kid, had figured out how to hide things. Not because he was bad, not because he was trying to deceive me, but because he felt something he couldn't name yet, shame. That shame? It's silent. It crawls into corners and grows. It tells our kids, "You're dirty for looking. You're bad. You're wrong." But no one told them what to do when they see something confusing or sexual or scary online. So they hide, they delete, they pretend, and the worst part? They keep watching. Because even though they're ashamed, they're still curious. Even though they know they shouldn't, they can't stop thinking about it. That's how it starts. A cycle of hiding, watching, deleting, feeling guilty, and doing it all over again. We found a private browser tab once on my daughter's tablet. She was 11. My wife confronted her gently, asked what she had been looking at. She burst into tears. "I didn't mean to," she said. "It just popped up, and then, I don't know. I clicked it. I didn't know it was that, but then it kept showing me more." I didn't yell. I didn't threaten to take the tablet forever. But inside, I felt like the air had been punched out of me. Because what she saw wasn't just a picture. It was a trap. And the trap was working. You see, kids aren't wired for this kind of stimulation. Their brains are still developing, especially the parts that manage impulse control and judgment. So when they see sexual content, it's like giving their brain a shot of something too strong for their age. It's not about lust. It's about overstimulation, confusion, and repetition. That's why they keep going back. Not because they understand what they're watching, but because their brain says, "That was intense. I want more." But then comes the silence. They sit at dinner, quieter than usual. They stop asking silly questions. They flinch when you pick up their phone. They seem tense, withdrawn, different. And we, as parents, often misread the signs. We think they're being moody, or must be hormones, or teen stuff. But deep down, something darker might be going on. Something they don't have the tools to talk about yet. I remember one night, my son looked so miserable, I finally asked him, "Is there something you saw that you wish you hadn't?" He nodded, then whispered, "I think it broke something in my head." My heart shattered. That's when I knew that we had to change how we talk about this in our home. It wasn't enough to say, don't look at bad stuff. We had to talk about what bad stuff was. Why it's not just naughty, but damaging. Why hiding it doesn't make it go away. And why their brain's reaction to it isn't something to be ashamed of. We also had to talk about why it's so easy to keep going back. Because the truth is, some content is designed to keep pulling you in. That's not your child being weak. That's a $1 billion industry using psychology against them. And your child has no idea what's happening. That's why they feel ashamed. That's why they stay silent. That's why in the middle of the night, they're still watching. I've had to tell both my kids this clearly, calmly, and more than once. You are not bad for being curious. You are not broken for clicking. But the internet is not a good teacher when it comes to your body and your heart. Come to me. I can help. We even made a rule. If they see something they know they shouldn't, they can come tell us. No punishments. No drama. Just talk. That single promise changed everything. One night, my daughter knocked on our door shaking. I clicked something and I don't like how it made me feel. We thanked her. We hugged her. We didn't take the tablet away. Instead, we sat down and showed her how to reset her suggestions. We cleared out the garbage and helped her set up a playlist of safe, joyful, real content. Not fake smiles and fake laughs in tight clothes. Not clickbait drama. Just people being people. Making stuff, learning stuff, living. Because kids don't need less access to the internet. They need more access to guidance. And they need it now. If your kid is hiding their screen, if they're suddenly defensive, if they're deleting things they never used to delete, pause before reacting. Start with compassion, not control. They're not sneaky. They're scared. They're not rebelling. They're confused. They don't need punishment. They need you. When I look back, I think the biggest mistake I made was assuming silence meant everything was fine. My daughter was 9 when she stopped asking questions about her body. Just like that. One day she was full of innocent, why does my chest hurt and when will I grow hair like mom? And then nothing, not a word. At first I was relieved. I thought, okay, maybe she's not curious anymore. Maybe she's figured it out. But in truth, she was still just as curious, maybe even more so. She had just decided that I wasn't the person to ask anymore. She had the internet, and the internet always has time to answer. I was afraid to talk to her about sex, about her changing body, about anything that felt adult. I thought I'd scare her, or worse, introduce ideas she wasn't ready for. But the truth is, the internet had already done that. It was miles ahead of me, and it didn't wait for permission. I had a chance to be her first teacher. Instead, I was her last resort. We've been trained to avoid these conversations. Most of us grew up in homes where no one said penis or vagina out loud, where sex was either completely hidden or wrapped in layers of awkward metaphors. So now as adults, we hesitate. We think, if I bring it up, they'll start thinking about it more. Here's the truth. They're already thinking about it. They're already asking questions. And if we don't answer them, someone else, or something else, will. I remember when my son was 11, and I finally worked up the courage to ask him, have you ever seen anything online that made you uncomfortable? He looked at me with wide eyes, then slowly nodded. Yeah, but I didn't know if I should tell you. Why not? I asked. I thought you'd take my tablet away, or think I'm gross. That hit me like a punch. Not because he had seen something. By that point, I expected it, but because he thought I'd love him less for it. So I did the one thing I should have done months earlier. I told him I wanted him to ask questions, that he could tell me anything, that curiosity wasn't wrong, and that feelings aren't punishable. We talked for over an hour. I didn't lecture him. I didn't show him graphic photos. I didn't pull out diagrams. I just listened. He told me how a friend had shown him a website at school. He told me he felt sick afterward, but he kept going back anyway. He told me he didn't want to feel that way anymore. That conversation changed everything. We're so afraid to talk about sex, pornography, or bodies with our kids because we're uncomfortable. But that discomfort doesn't protect them. It only pushes them towards strangers on the internet who will answer without discomfort and without care. One parent I know avoided the topic so long that their son ended up thinking porn was how real people acted in relationships. By the time they had the talk, it was too late. He'd already formed opinions shaped by pixels, not people. Another mom I spoke to cried as she told me how her daughter was messaged by an older guy on TikTok, pretending to be a teen. It started with harmless comments, then emojis, then flirty jokes, then photos. She said, I didn't want to talk to her about predators. I thought it would scare her. But it wasn't the conversation that scared her. It was being alone with something she didn't understand that scared her. We owe our kids better than silence. We owe them honest conversations. Not perfect ones, not rehearsed ones, just real ones. Start with, have you ever seen something online that made you feel weird? Or, if someone sends you a picture you didn't ask for, what would you do? Or even, do you know the difference between real love and what you might see in a video? You'd be amazed at what they'll tell you when they realize you're not judging them. We also started using real words in our house. No more silly nicknames for body parts. No more avoiding hard topics. When our kids asked, what's sex? We gave them a truthful, age-appropriate answer. Not a romanticized myth, not a warning soaked in fear, just facts, with warmth. Because when you make something unspeakable, it becomes shameful. And shame thrives in silence. One night, my daughter came to me and said, a boy at school said something gross, and I didn't like it, but I didn't want to tell the teacher. Why not, I asked. I didn't want her to think I was the gross one, too. That broke me. I pulled her close and whispered what every child needs to hear. No question you ask will ever make you bad. No word you say will make me love you less. You can always come to me. And slowly, the silence began to break. When we finally decided to stop dodging the hard stuff, our entire household changed. It started with one rule. Simple, direct, but powerful. We faced the internet together. It didn't mean I was constantly looking over their shoulders or snatching devices out of their hands. It meant we'd create a home where screens weren't secrets, where mistakes could be discussed, where curiosity didn't have to be punished into silence. Because here's the truth I had to learn the hard way. We can't build walls high enough to keep the world out. The internet is faster, louder, and more relentless than any parental lock. But what we can build is a kind of shield, not one made of restrictions, but of trust. I sat down with my son and showed him how to set up clean search filters. I didn't just do it for him. I explained why. We talked about how certain sites don't care about his well-being, just his attention. He was 12, old enough to understand more than I gave him credit for. He asked, but what if I mess up again? And I said, then you tell me. No shame, just honesty. We also created a tech reset routine. Every week, we sit down for 30 minutes, not to snoop, but to check in. No accusations, just what's showing up in your feed these days. Did anything make you uncomfortable? Are there accounts you're following that you're not sure about? Sometimes they say no. Sometimes they shrug. But sometimes they open up. My daughter once told me, there's this girl on TikTok who always posts about sad stuff. I watch her a lot, but then I feel weird. That was a door. Instead of saying, well, stop watching her, I asked, do you know why you feel weird? She paused, then said, it's like I want to help her, but it's too much. That's digital empathy. That's emotional growth. And it only happened because we created space for it. We also made a deal, no screens in bedrooms. Not because we didn't trust them, but because we love them. Devices sleep in the kitchen. That way if they can't sleep, they talk, or they read, or they rest. It was hard at first. There were groans, dramatic sighs, accusations of being the only parents who do this. But weeks later, my son said quietly, I sleep better now. You don't have to be a tech expert to protect your kid online. You just have to be present and consistent. And yes, brave enough to have awkward conversations. We told our kids, you're going to see things we can't stop, but we will always be here to talk about them. You're not alone in this. It's not a perfect system. My daughter once admitted to watching something on a friend's phone that made her feel gross. She cried when she told me, thinking I'd be disappointed. But I wasn't disappointed. I was proud. Because she told me. That's the shield. That's the point. We can't promise our kids a clean digital world, but we can promise them a safe place to land. We can teach them how to recognize manipulation, how to pause before they click, how to name their emotions instead of burying them, how to walk away from content that chips away at their self-worth. And most of all, We can teach them that mistakes don't define them. The internet is going to keep evolving. There will always be another app, another trend, another hidden trap behind a smiling thumbnail. But the power of your presence, that never gets outdated. We told our kids that we are always learning too, that sometimes we need reminders, that being a family doesn't mean being perfect. It means facing hard things together. So if you're a parent right now, wondering if it's too late, it's not. If you've been avoiding the talk, start tonight. If you've made mistakes, let your child see you own them. That vulnerability might be the very thing that helps them tell you their truth. You don't need to be an expert on content filters or VPNs or screen time settings. You just need to say, I see you, I hear you, I'm here. Because the greatest protection your child will ever have isn't a parental control setting. It's you.